Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are. I'm excited to be here today, mainly because this is my first podcast. I've been wanting to do one. I've talked about it for 2 or 3 years. Everybody's doing a podcast. Why not Bob Hopkins? And so I decided finally to do that. The person who told me not to even mention his name is Noman Robin, who actually is the one who's responsible for all of this. And he came from Bangladesh, did a story about me called Mighty 80. And it was a film. He's received many awards for this film. And so he just continues to do things and wanted to do a podcast, and I wanted to do one too, so here we are. So my guests today are the most important people that I know. And I say that truly. I know a lot of people. I know thousands of people. I know millions of people. But these two are my first two guests, and I chose them because of their friendship with me all of these many years. Scott and I go back 35 years. Jim and I go back 20 years. And they've been in my books called Philanthropy Misunderstood and then Philanthropy Understood. Scott wrote the foreword in Philanthropy Misunderstood, and Jim was in both books. They're both in both books. You don't get in both books unless you're a good friend of Bob Hopkins. Today and for the rest of my life, I hope to be doing this podcast on a regular basis with many fabulous, wonderful people and topics that are going to be of interest to you, because I'm going to pick topics that are of interest to me. I am a professor. I got a master's degree from Kansas State University, and I hate to tell you this, so don't tell anyone. I did it to stay out of Vietnam. But you could either be a farmer or a teacher, and I decided, I guess I'll be a teacher. I don't know anything about farming. In fact, my tomatoes are dead in the backyard at night. I went out to look and see if I could pick one. They're all gone because the squirrels are there. So anyway, I have been a teacher and haven't done it all my life, but the last 15 years I have been a college professor teaching speech. I know a lot about the educational system now. I know what the educational system is in Texas. I know why we're number 25 on the list of the 50 states as far as quality education is concerned. And my biggest gripe is the fact that teachers are not paid what they need to be paid. Consequently, I think there's a lot of fabulous people out there who would love to be a teacher, only if they could be paid enough to feed a family of 4. And $60,000 is not enough in Texas, they say, to feed a family of 4. In fact, it takes $83,000. That's a lot of money, more than what a teacher gets paid when they first start out. I would like to bring in Jim Keyes, who wrote this book called Education is Freedom. He's been all over the world selling this book, but not to sell the book, but to speak about education is freedom. And he's got some different ideas. And I read the book thinking I know everything, and I don't know anything compared to what he does and what he thinks about can make better educational things. And then I've also have a book here called Rhyme Has Reason. This is the 4th book of Scott Murray. And Scott Murray and I've known each other for 40 years, 35 to 40 years.
I was in 2nd grade. That's right.
And he was in 2nd grade, and I must have been 40. So he was a child. So anyway, this is a new book of his and just came out a couple of months ago. In fact, the 3 of us were together selling books one time, and there's a big picture of us with each of us holding our books, and it's my favorite picture. So anyway, welcome, gentlemen. Thank you for your busy time and busy place. I know that Jim just got off a plane from Australia a couple of days ago, and Scott Murray does 365 events every year. And he says it's times 3 because he does 3 events every day. And when I call him, I said, where are you? I'm getting ready for an event. I'm getting ready for an event. It's Saturday. I'm getting ready for an event. It's Sunday. I'm getting ready for an event. So I don't know how many he does, probably 900 events a year. And he's been doing it for a lot of years. But, of course, I could show you a picture of what he looked like 35 years ago, and he hasn't changed a minute. Gentlemen, thank you for being here.
Thank you. I've got to ask you before we move on, what's the name of your first podcast? This podcast that we're privileged to be a part of.
Well, it has had several names. Number one, it was Saddle Up with Bob because we were going to be on horseback.
Right. I remember that.
And Noman, who is my photographer, is afraid of horses. So he says, I can't do that. So I was disappointed, but we have decided, and he's decided, that this equipment can go out into the pasture, and we will be on horseback, and maybe you'll be on another one of those. But right now it's called BobCast. And BobCast are those things that make a difference in this changing life of ours. And I'm going to be talking about things that are changing people's lives. And I'm not going to be talking about mundane things. And education is mundane, except when it comes to the three of us. And that's why we are here, because we have something different to talk about, because we're doing different kinds of things that make a difference in children's lives. So speaking of that, who would like to go first? We're doing this.
Let's do it alphabetically.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, are we going Murray or
Keys?
Keys?
Wait. Took
Jim
me a
Keys,
second
ladies
there.
and
I had to do
gentlemen.
the
Okay, Jim Keys
had to do the math.
is the former executive director, president of 7-Eleven of the world. He did that for 29 years or something like that. And then he was involved in Blockbuster. And Scott Murray, on the other hand, has been with Channel 5, which is KXTV. KXAS in Dallas, Texas.
NBC 5.
NBC 5 as the sports newscaster.
Sports director, sports anchor.
Right. And I don't want anybody to repeat this, but he has been the favorite sportscaster of Jerry Jones, the president of the Dallas Cowboys, because he told me that. So anyway, Keys, I guess you're going to go first.
Sure. Well, I guess we're going to talk about education, right?
Yeah.
All right. So very simply, the reason I am passionate about education is that for me, it was truly a lifesaver. And I mean that quite literally, because I grew up in very unusual circumstances for this day and age. No running water, 3-room shack, outhouse. Mom left when I was 5. House was condemned at 10. Father died at 12. So, anything that could go wrong did go wrong. But for having the blessing of being born in America, where we had a pretty good public school system in the rural town I grew up in, and but for the grace of teachers who would take me aside and say, "Hey, kid, you got some ability here. You've got this. You can do it." Those small mentorships, those small encouragements that a teacher makes at every stage of your life, often they don't even realize the impact that they're having. But it was transformative for me, because education became my path out of poverty and into true freedom. By freedom, literally, I mean, wasn't ever about money, making money, having a great job. It was about having the privilege of being able to do whatever I choose to do in this life. And I discovered that knowledge was the enabler, and that I can learn how to do virtually anything. And that just opens up such an amazing opportunity to see every day as a new adventure, and still the life I live today.
Mm-hmm. Well, your story, I've heard it, I've known it, and I think you got a special award with a group of people who are kind of like you and have that kind of a story. It's the Horatio Alger Award, and there's not very many people in Dallas who actually have fit that particular life that you have, and obviously it wasn't just because you did that life, but it's because what you've made of yourself.
Yeah, I was very fortunate, Bob, to receive this award. They grant it to about 10 or 12 people a year. Have been doing this for about 80 years, and it's everyone from Ronald Reagan to Oprah that have been recipients, and this kid named Jim Keys. And the best part for me is that I was able to receive it with 2 luminaries from my perspective. One, Ebby Halliday, who was just an amazing woman. She was in her late 90s when she received the award. She was a real estate developer here in Dallas, just broke all the rules and paved the way for so many young people to see her as an inspiration. But another person that I was on stage with receiving the award happened to be my childhood hero, because as a child, I grew up in the Gemini and Apollo era, and literally was at Boy Scout camp when Apollo 11 landed on the moon. So here I found myself in the Supreme Court standing next to Buzz Aldrin, who was my inspiration because these guys were just ordinary men. They weren't rich. They weren't from fancy, wealthy families. They were just regular guys, ordinary guys doing extraordinary things. And it was the power of knowledge, of education, that made that possible for a guy like Buzz Aldrin. So I was able to stand there on the stage and say, I'm here because of him. And it was just it's one of those, fabulous moments.
Stories are what makes everything go around, and thank you for that story. I have stories about my own life and my upbringing, et cetera, et cetera. Scott wasn't born in poverty, but he wasn't born in an affluent life either, because I've heard his story many times. In fact, I've met your family, I met your sister, and of course I know your children. Every one of you and your children have gotten college degrees. They have, and obviously you being a sports newscaster, you weren't making millions of dollars to do all of that, but you have two incredible children, and now you have a grandchild, I understand, who I know will be going to college because he hasn't got a choice.
Oh, he's phenomenal. He'll be 3 in August. But last time I was over to see him, and thankfully he's right here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, so it's not like we live here and he lives in New York or California or wherever it might be. It's great that we can see him. As a matter of fact, tomorrow for about 4 hours, we're going to get a chance to babysit him. So we just enjoy that. So Carol and I it's just been one of the highlights, any chance we get a chance to do that. And now he has learned how to have a conversation. Not quite 3, but the other day I said, would you like something to eat? And he said, no, thank you, Pop. I think I'm full right now. And when he said that to me, I thought I was going to lose it. I don't know who taught him to say I'm full right now, or I was just blown away. Yeah. But he's just my gosh, it's a conversation.
Yeah.
So, and he's not quite 3. So I thought I was pretty impressed with that.
Yeah. Well, I know you've been waiting for a long time to get a grandchild, and so this is pretty special in your lives. And of course, you have a son who's in the same business that you're in.
Right.
He's with Murray Media, and that's what you do now. Is that you do kind of what we're doing today. You talk to people over and over and over again, and you're master of ceremonies of every event in town. And if Scott Murray isn't doing it, I don't know who is, because I don't hear anybody else's name except Scott Murray.
Can you say Jim Keys?
Does Jim Keys do every event in town?
I did his.
Oh, wow.
He did do, that's right. He did do one. That's right.
Right.
And he did a good job, too.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I know that you're famous for is I had something to do with, and I want to make sure that my name is involved when we talk about the Scott Murray Foundation giving scholarships to students. Because I was involved in an organization like that, and the founder decided that he didn't want to do it anymore, and I nominated you to take it over because I know your desire to be an educator, number one. Number two is you want every student to have the opportunity to go to college. And while you might have had some struggles even going to college or paying for college, I don't know necessarily that story, but obviously you're an educator and here you are.
Well, I unlike, fortunately, unlike Jim, I was very fortunate, thank the good Lord, to have 2 incredible parents that were with me. Well, my mother passed away a couple of years ago. My dad passed away about 15 years ago. But they were 2 of the most incredible people I ever met in my life. The ultimate role models anybody could have. My dad was a biochemical engineer, worked at Taylor Instruments, at NASA. He was the best. And education was number 1. If you're going to be effective in this world for yourself and your family, you've got to use your head. And then my mother was right there to share. You also have to be respectful and compassionate. And that's part of what is my book on Rhyme Has Reason. Be kind, courteous, and respectful, something that this world, unfortunately, has lost. And so consequently, between my 2 parents, I just learned so much, and they were just such great role models. And so I really enjoyed being a part of all the things that we had a chance to do. My mother was a nurse, a concert pianist, and she did teach school, too. She was a substitute teacher at the middle school level. And then my dad, I told you about him. So I just had two great role models. They were just, they were the ultimate.
Mm-hmm. Well, one of the reasons we met was because of the disease neurofibromatosis. When I came to town here, I worked for the Shelton School for a couple of years, and then I was offered the opportunity to be the executive director of the Texas Neurofibromatosis Foundation. And I think it was October of many years ago, I went to their first event that they were doing, and it was actually the Dallas Cowboys, not the Dallas Cowboys, but the former Dallas Cowboys. And they hosted it with you, and you brought them in, and every year they would raise money for neurofibromatosis, and that's how I first started seeing you and being with you.
That was back. You talk about time. That was back in the mid '80s.
That was 88, 89, something like that.
So that's
came
amazing. So we're talking almost 4 decades ago.
Yeah.
So it was really, really very special.
And guess what? You're still doing it because you received an award from them just recently.
I did. And this Legacy Award, I'm trying to remember. It was, but I'm there. Here's why I was like that. First of all, because of my 2 incredible parents, but my family was always interested in medicine. My grandfather was the dean of the medical school at the University of Rochester. That's where I went to school. But I think I wanted to be a pediatrician since I was 7 years old. I went trick-or-treating on a Friday night with my friend Frankie, my best friend. We were both in 2nd grade, 7 years old. On Monday, I walked into first grade or 2nd grade, and here's Frankie's parents. And I said to my teacher, oddly enough, I remember her name, Mrs. Molden. I said, "Why aren't Frankie's parents here?" And she said, "Scotty, you go sit down. We'll tell you in a minute." And they proceeded to tell us that Frankie had leukemia, and he was gone before the end of the school year. So I vowed I was going to be a pediatrician, find a cure for childhood cancer. Haven't done it yet, but that's what I went to college to become. And when I was in college, I was driving down the road, and I heard this guy on the radio say, "How would you like to make millions of dollars? Travel to millions of locations, meet millions of girls. You too can be a disc jockey." So I took a little left-hand turn and went in and tried out for this job and never heard from him. And then about 3 months later, actually, I did. I went in and made an air check. Never heard from him. And then 3 months later, got a call just before Christmas. And they said, "Mr. Murray," and I said, "You looking for me or my father?" "No, this is the station. You made a air check, resume tape." "Yes, sir." Said, "We had 517 applications. We've whittled our list down to 18. You're one of the 18. Well, long story short, I got the job. I called myself Doc Scott, the sound surgeon, since I was going to be a doctor. And I did the all-night show from 1 till 6 in the morning, my freshman and sophomore years. And that parlayed itself in one of the television stations, GM's called, got a hold of me and brought me into his office, opened up the desk drawer and said, "Try this on." I said, "What is it?" He said, "It's a fake mustache. I need to give it a little age so you don't look like my baby-faced paperboy. You have the look and the voice for a news anchor." I said, "Oh, I'm most honored, thank you." But I said, I want to be a doctor. I want to be a pediatrician. And I said, "But if you got a job in sports," and I got a chance to do a couple of things, and the rest is history. And finished up and was getting ready I wanted to go to Duke, to medical school, because that's where my mother's family had all gone to school. And things happened, and boom, I ended up in television for 30 plus years in the news.
And of course, now you're doing a scholarship for students. In fact, in the 2 years that you have been involved, and I know this because I've been on your board, we've sent 19 kids to college.
Yeah, it's
and
pretty special.
We're hunting for people all the time who want to be a sponsor of one of your kids and one of your students. In fact, we've got 2 right now who would need to have a sponsor. So if anybody wants to be a sponsor for the next semester, which is fall of this year, it's by the semester, and it usually is $1,500 to $2,000 a semester or something like that. And I just wanted to tell you.
Yeah, we've given up to 4, depending on who the student is, what they're doing, and so it's and certainly what money we have available as well.
Right.
So
okay.
Give Bob a call.
Give Bob a call. Exactly. And some of these students are my students that I've had in college too, because obviously I'm there. I tell them. All right, I want to change the topic a little bit. I want to talk about education. I want to know what's wrong with it. I want to know what's right with it.
Before we get heavy, I'm not going to be able to get this image of Scott with a mustache and Anchorman out of my head. I've never heard that story. Ron. Start calling you Ron.
Yeah. That was crazy.
I can just can you just picture that?
I can see that little black mustache like that. And I said, "What is that?" And he told me. I said, No. So, but yeah,
I
true
did.
story.
I actually was in a play in high school, and actually,
Did
and
you have to wear
they
a
had
mustache?
yeah, they had to put a. I was Joe Ferroni and up the down staircase, and you know what happened?
Joe Ferroni.
Oh yeah, exactly. I think I was the only kid in town that even came close to looking Italian. So
That's hilarious.
And so I won this part, and I wore this fake mustache, and I had never had a whole lot of luck with girls. I was only about, in the 10th grade.
Right,
All of a
right.
sudden, all the girls wanted to talk to me because
Yeah.
I had this fake mustache.
Oh, that's
right. So I
hilarious.
grew a mustache as soon as I can, and I had it. I had it until, actually, this is even funnier. I lost my mustache because of Dr. Phil, of all things.
Why is that?
Well, 7-Eleven was doing this is a story not many people have heard. 7-Eleven was being sued by some people. I was running the gasoline business, and they were suing us over Island card readers because they had just come out. And so Phil McGraw used to run a thing called Courtroom Services, where he would actually teach people how to testify. That's how he met Oprah. Teaching, they have a mock trial and a fake jury, but these jury members thought they were real. And then you'd testify, and they'd go in the back room, and they would talk about the case and your testimony. And you're watching this on a closed circuit TV. So I testify, and I think I'm doing such a great job. And they go into the jury, goes into the jury room, and this one woman who I had great eye contact with and everything said, "That Keys on that twitchy little mustache. I don't trust a word he says." Phil was like, "Lose the stash."
No kidding.
Yeah. So I haven't had a mustache ever since, sadly.
That's unreal.
Isn't that crazy?
It is.
I know. One of
That's
those.
hilarious.
Sorry, Bob. I know you wanted to talk about education. I know that.
Well, we needed a little break from that for a moment.
All right, education,
All right,
go for
education. All right, so here's the deal. I know there's all kinds. Bob, I know you've got some strong feelings about education, our education system. There's a lot of people that have strong feelings. The problem is we've got a lot of blame being thrown around. We've got a lot of accusations. We've got a lot of criticism. Nobody is putting a transformative fix on the table. There's a lot of really well-intended and really good efforts being made to have incremental improvements. And I applaud those, and I'm one of them with the Education is Freedom Foundation, trying to make incremental improvements. Let's get it. Any one kid that you can change their life, that's a win. But if you step back from this, we have, and I'm just going to say America for now, a national security problem, a global competitiveness problem, and a fundamental human rights problem, all relating to education. Now, why do I say that? Because humanity is vulnerable. We're humans. We're vulnerable to ignorance, because ignorance leads to fear. Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hatred, and hatred leads to violence. And look around. We are in that do loop right now with people at each other's throats, even over the very cure, which is ultimately education. And why do I say education is the cure? Because there's only one antidote to ignorance, and that's knowledge. And that's the ability to elevate people and help them learn. I'm a poster child for that. Lord knows where I would be, but for education. And so I step back, and I have only one advantage. I'm not an educator. Bob, you are. Scott, you probably know more about education, the education system, than I do. But here's what I do know. Having had the privilege of leading 2 Fortune 500 companies, 7-Eleven and Blockbuster, I know scale. And scale is what we need to bring to education. Here's what I mean. Nothing more local than a convenience store, right? Every store stands on its own. A store in an apartment building is a whole different demographic than a store in an office building or on the way home. And we were in bankruptcy in 1991. Why? Because we didn't have the data to understand how to be better at each individual store. We thought you have to let the stores stand on their own. Well, we didn't have scale, so we didn't have the ability to buy across the whole chain as efficiently. We didn't have the ability to manage locally as efficiently. And as a result, we couldn't compete with mom and pops. Now, step back from that and look at our school system. 13,000 independent school districts in America, each doing its own thing. We don't have the ability to even locally compete with a private school. So a school with 100 kids can provide a better education to their kids than a system with 55 million kids. That makes absolutely no sense at all. Now, how do you fix that? Pretty simple, the same way corporations have done it for years. We've transformed the retail business. Look at the difference today versus 50 years ago. We've transformed communications. Think about where we've come from a dial-up phone to where we are today. We've transformed media. We've transformed every industry under the sun, but our education system. We are still teaching today the way we did 100 years ago, with books, with blackboards, with one-on-one teaching. Now, that system was built very efficiently for the industrial age, and it was just like the Model T Ford. As long as you want a black one, you're great. It's just all standardization, right? It's what they used to say about the Model T Ford. Any color you want as long as it's black. And what we do is we've got today a bell curve, so kids on the front of the bell curve are bored to tears. Kids on the back of the bell curve are relegated to special ed. And it's basically our system pushes everyone to the average, everyone to the middle. Now, okay, that worked in the industrial age. That doesn't work anymore in the information age when there's so much information, so much knowledge available to anyone from all kinds of directions. So what do? What's the solution? It's really pretty simple. The tools exist today to bring tremendous efficiency to the infrastructure of our school system. Eisenhower did it with our interstate highway. He said, this is a national security issue and an international and a global commerce issue. We've got to build a highway system. And he did, a federal, national, interstate highway system. Roosevelt did it with electrification of rural areas. Kennedy did it and said, we're going to put a man on the moon. Well, it's time now for us to step back and say, this country needs to bring an infrastructure to our education system that will provide the best tools that exist anywhere in the world to every child in this country. And the technology exists today to make that possible. What I'm trying to do is to encourage a national approach to bringing technology and an infrastructure, and that comes in three parts basically. It's the hardware and software basically that needs to come together. You need to it's the track you need. If you wanted high-speed rail, you got to have the track. We got to lay the track. It's not that expensive to lay because we've made a lot of progress along those lines. The second is the data and the identity systems, so that there's no reason for kids to have paper transcripts today, which they do in many parts of the country. Every grade, everything you have from the time you're a child follows you through your whole life. And then the third piece is a knowledge exchange, a coming together of all of the learning systems that are available, the best literacy tool, the best math tool, the best science tool, making them available to every classroom, every child. You can literally then let each teacher select the tools they want, so it's very local. But you also provide the very best tools, access to the very best tools to every classroom, every student in the country.
So I think that this topic needs to continue. Obviously, it will forever, and that's why this whole segment is all about education. This is not going to be the only segment, because I'm going to be doing one with Gigi Gartner, who's very much involved in the school systems with a program called Common Sense. I have a program called PAVE, Philanthropy and Volunteerism in Education. So I'm involved, and I'm there. But back to teachers just for 1 second. Teachers need to be paid more. There's no question about it. I understand Sweden and Denmark and places like that, they pay teachers what doctors here make, and then doctors there make what teachers make. I mean, it's kind of like that because they think teachers are so important. I don't know why Texas doesn't think we are important, and we don't attract the most intelligent and the most responsive teachers, I don't think. So anyway, but Scott, I'm interested in your book because it says rhyme has reason. And this is a fun thing, so it's not a philosophical thing necessarily so, but this is all off the top of your head. You took A, B, C, D, all the way through the alphabet, and you picked a topic, and you made up a poem about it.
Yeah. Now the A, B, C, D, I took the 26. That's the alphabet of life part of the title, and that dealt with the 26 letters of the alphabet. I took the positive and the negative words that all began with the same letter, and created 3-verse poems.
Yeah.
About what we need not to be and what we should be. The rest of the book is Rhyme Has Reason. I took 125 words like courage, commitment, character, compassion, kindness, courtesy, respect, honesty, integrity, faith, family, mother, father. Words like that are common every day, but unfortunately we don't live our life with enough of those words. So I took those words and put them together with...
Well, I turned it to education, which is E. And that's on page 39.
All right.
And I would love for you to read what you wrote.
Well, I'm so much in agreement of what you and Jim have shared already, Bob. But this is when I was writing and thinking about education and just how it affects us and who we are and what we're all about. This is what I wrote. As we move through life and grow each day, education is key to it all. We must learn to listen and forever explore, so we never, ever fall. And I think it's important to note that this book is all written in rhyme. And I don't know if we said that, so that's the whole idea of this. Education is the transmission of knowledge, as we're taught by young and old. So always pay attention to all that others mention, despite if you agree with what you're told. We can learn from each moment, from the day we're born, from experience, knowledge, and skills. Might be at home, then to school in the classroom, or even in sports with great thrills. Yet there are those who are clueless, illiterate, ignorant, and unenlightened, and don't give a darn at all. Neglected, deserted, abandoned, and ignorant, and forever will never stand tall. From teaching to training to preparation to development, it's information gained for your brain. Moving forward each day, both positively and productively, is really the name of the game. Be it socialized or civilized, educated or cultured, that's the right way from the start. So be brave and be bold as you move through life. Education is the intelligence in your heart. So, just a little something. Oh, yes.
Good.
But it's just the whole idea that, keep it
and
positive, productive, and move forward with great purpose and who
Right.
you are and what you're all about.
And this is so small, you can actually put it in your pocket almost and take it with you. And it's a great little gift for people. It's a hard book and a soft book. This is a soft cover right here. And you can get these through my website. Also, Jim's Education is Freedom. The future is in your hands. And that's kind of what we're talking about right now, in the fact that everybody listening to education, you can make a difference, but you need to voice it. You can't just sit behind and let things happen. If you can do something that's in a positive way. And the school board is really an important space and place that you could go, because I think school board members need to be told what you think and what you feel. And I think they're not necessarily being told that kind of thing.
Well, you talk about the poetry, or what I just shared in this. That came to me when I was about 8 years old. As I mentioned earlier, I lost my best friend, Benji, from leukemia. But the following year, my mother and father both taught me that education is the most important thing that I need to be able to share. I need to share it with myself, with my family, with my friends, and with my own children someday. And I'm most proud of the fact that both of my children are graduates of Baylor University, both in the honor system, and they just did, they both had like close to 3.5 averages in school, and they understand what it takes. My daughter is now a vice president at J.P. Morgan Chase. My son is my business partner since I retired from doing the news. He graduated and said, "Dad, you're speaking or emceeing to hundreds of events every year. Let's have our own television AV event company, and I can do the same things that you've done for 30 years, watching you grow up." And so I said, great. So we created our own television production company. And the highlight of my professional career, it was going to Normandy on the 70th anniversary of D-Day. I do a lot of military stuff, MC the Veterans Day Parade in Dallas every year, things like that, and was asked to go to Normandy. So I went with with 24 World War II vets, all in their 90s. They took a son or a daughter who were in their 60s or 70s to kind of watch over them. And we went to Germany, Luxembourg, Belgium, and back to France. And I asked them if I could take my son with me, and they said, oh, we don't have room on the charter. And then two of the fellows dropped out, and they said, well, we do have room, but we can't afford to pay him. I said, we'll put the documentary together for you for nothing. After all that these servicemen and women have done for us, protecting us and keeping us out of harm's way for ultimate, for decades, for centuries, we'd like to do that. So we went over there. My son shot the whole thing. I wrote the documentary. Both my son and I won an Emmy. It was the highlight of my professional career. Nothing will ever top it. And because of that, we were asked to go to Pearl Harbor on the 75th and did the same thing. So those are the things that and it came from my parents, who taught me that leadership, being kind, courteous, and respectful are key. And that's what I've done. And that's just, my mother taught me about poetry. She loved to write poetry. If you were to look up in Google for this poem that I'm very quickly going to share with you, it won't have an author. It says author unknown. I'll tell you who the author was. It was my mother, because she put this together with me when I was 8 years old. And she taught me it's how you treat people and how you treat your children, because you see so many people getting divorced. That was back in the day. Look what it is today. And it's so single. I do a golf tournament every year with single parent advocate. It's so sad what some of these children have to go through. But the poem goes something like this. It's how you speak and what you say to your children. And again, it's all in rhyme. I got 2 A's, the small boy cried. His voice was filled with glee. His mother turned and rudely said, but why didn't you get 3? Mom, I've got the dishes done, the girl called from the door. Her mother turned and rudely said, but did you sweep the floor? I mowed the grass, the tall boy said. I put the mower away. His father turned and abruptly said, but did you clean off all the clay? Now the children in the house next door seemed happy and content. The same thing happened over there, but this is how it went. I got 2 A's, the small boy cried. His voice was filled with glee. His mother turned and smiled and said, I'm glad you live with me. Mom, I've got the dishes done, the girl called from the door. Her mother turned and smiled and said, each day I love you more. I mowed the grass, the tall boy said. I put the mower away. His father turned and smiled and said, you've made me happy today. Children desire a little praise for things they're asked to do. If they're to lead a happy life, so much depends on you. And that's what it's all about. And that came from my parents, and it's all part of the education system. It really is. And if kids are going to believe in themselves, who they are and what they're going to do, they have to be positive, productive, so they can have that purpose in their life and move forward in a positive, productive way every single day.
Well, thank you for entertaining us a little bit.
Well, thanks, thanks, Mom and Dad.
Because I think rhyme has rhythm and rhyme has reason, and that's the name of your book here. Mm-hmm. And back to education. Education is freedom. We're going to be with Gigi Gartner shortly. And Gigi Gartner has developed a wonderful program which has been going on for 27 years in Dallas Independent School District. And thousands of students have learned how to take care of their finances before they take my course, which is called PAY, Philanthropy and Volunteerism in Education. And what you're talking about is philanthropy. Mm-hmm. All of your poems are people who behave a certain way. And that's what philanthropy is behavior. So if you put her course together with my course, then what you're going to have, hopefully, Jim, is a better educational system as well, as long as we have your tools to go with it. So in conclusion, because I think we only have a few minutes.
Well, I can wrap it up with the one poem that you know.
Let's do it.
Well, you're not ready yet, are you?
For
what?
You
want some closing thoughts from my buddy here?
Yeah. Oh, you're going to close. Okay, let's have a sub-close.
Sub-close. So building on what Scott said, it's the little things, and building on what you said is that the teachers are perhaps underappreciated. Everything that I've described is to provide the teacher with better tools. Teachers really do make a difference. We need that human touch, and yet teachers aren't equipped now with either the compensation or the tools to be able to be as effective as they otherwise could be. And that's my mission, to be able to take all of the redundancy and efficiency. This is the corporate me coming out. If you have 13,000 independent school districts, each doing their own thing, the ability to provide greater consistency within and provide the tools that take away the paperwork and all of the things that make our schools so expensive, hopefully we can provide the teachers with a more than just a living wage, that we can actually provide them with a system that makes it an incentive for people to go into teaching, which is what we should all want. And ultimately to provide the very best tools to every child in the country. This is ultimately, as I said, national security, it's global competitiveness. But if you stop and think about the problems with humanity, crime, poverty, healthcare issues, war, what does it all stem from? It all comes back to ignorance. So the investment in a child, in every child, and elevating human knowledge to eliminate fear, which is the ultimate culprit here, ignorance and fear, elevating every child across the planet, not just America, because this system, once we build it for America, could be provided to every child across this planet. And imagine if we could elevate humanity to the point that illiteracy is something that goes away. Why not? Imagine a world where, and I know this is scary to some people, but with an AI tutor, we can truly eliminate, with the ability to have individualized learning for every child. We could take learning disabilities out of the equation. We can deliver content based on the way a child responds to it. These are all possible with the power, using the power of technology that exists today, just bringing the scale to both the United States and then making it available to the world to elevate humanity. So in closing, in this age of fear over AI and technology and, oh my gosh, the machines are going to take over, if we recognize that the real power of humanity are those very human things, kindness, gratitude, humility, compassion, and then we combine that with elevating human knowledge at the rate we're elevating machine knowledge, then there's nothing to fear. The future of humanity is quite bright. That's why my book, Education, is.
And I'm glad you're taking that message across the world.
Yeah, I like
And that's
that.
why you're off the plane going here and there and doing the same thing. And obviously, not only are you going to change America, but you're going to change the world if everybody listens closely to what Jim Keyes has to say. So,
Yeah,
Scott.
that was well put. Well put.
Right. I want to remind everybody about these books that these two gentlemen are in. Philanthropy Misunderstood, and then we have Philanthropy Understood. Let's say over here in the camera. These men are both in these books, and these are 100 people in each book who changed the world, not only in education, but also in their behavior. They're being nice to each other and trying to make peace instead of war. So, Scott, let's
Yes.
have a poem from you, the last one that we're going to hear for today.
Well, I could play off of basically what Jim just said,
Yeah.
is to move forward in that positive, productive way. And so that each one of us has a personal purpose in their life every single day, and no matter how old or young they might be. So my keynote that I give across the country is Leadership America, creating champions of change through a culture of civility, because we've lost the ability to be kind, courteous, and respectful to people. So the poem is what I call my Leadership America Creed, and it goes like this. Living life is not just about me. A purposeful life is all about we, sharing together all that we see, even though we might not always agree. Respectful and kind is forever key. Truthful and transparent is what we should be. Eradicating the anger and the hateful debris. Live not in a world where we need referees. So let us move forward in a place we foresee, diverse and inclusive for both he and she. Matters not religion nor race, faith is for thee. We must live in a world that's our home of the free.
Great. Thank you. And thank you, everybody, for being here on my first podcast. I think it was not a podcast. It was a BobCast.
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 The inaugural kickoff.
The inaugural kickoff. And hopefully it'll have rave reviews, and we will see you all again shortly. Stay clean, stay good, stay cool, and God grants you the serenity to accept the things you cannot change. Change the things you can, and the difference, know it. Know the difference between the two. Thanks.